Hey everyone, welcome back. I've had a couple people mention if I can make anything else instead of the Heat Inherent AoE Nuke meta videos that I've been coming out with lately. I've also had people ask if I can just make something that doesn't involve shield gating. Well, today's video will answer both of those questions. This is, unironically, a health tanking, healing Saryn with the option to shield gate if you want. Yes, this is a build that has both shield gating and health tanking. It also has crowd control. It is also a nuke Saryn. I'm going to start by saying this is not a free run and gun Saryn. While you can do that, and it will do base steel path when doing so, this is actually a Saryn meant to allow you to do multi-hour survival and shorter endurance runs on steel path. I do not intend this to go to level 9k, but presumably it should be very comfortable up to around the level 400 to 600 mark. If you choose the run and gun, the build still works because, well, Saryn is extremely strong to start with. However, this build loses somewhere around 25 times its damage scaling. Yes, 25 times. And even without it, it's still strong enough to run and gun. That's why I said this build is meant to scale. While it has the damage to do level cap, I would remove the parts associated with health tanking since that would be useless beyond level 600 or so. Also, one tip for builds using elemental ward subsumes. Your element depends on the first emissive color and your appearances. Certain frames can get away with setting the first color to black so that it doesn't affect the actual color you want, which can be in the second slot. The pure black and white colors on smoke are all considered cold for elemental ward, so try those ones out first. Alright, what's going on here? This Saryn setup is similar to my Bing Chillin' Chroma build. If you haven't seen the ridiculous damage output that can put out, check out the original video at the top right. You might know by now that Zada's Whisper has a lot of weird interactions and bullet attractor shenanigans to put it over the top. Instead of using the full might of Zada's Whisper, we have substituted it with slightly weaker mechanics. Toxin Lash on Saryn has always been known to be very strong, as it adds Toxin onto your weapon scaled off of your strength, including the Toxin scaled through your weapon mods. It also force procs Toxin on enemies, producing a ton of Toxic procs. However, it also redips certain mechanics in the game, most notably Banes. But you probably already knew this. Weapons on Saryn apply the Bane on hit, and then again on the hit produced by Toxin Lash for 1.55 times 1.55 equals 2.4 times damage. The dot produced by Toxin Lash would triple dip it for 1.55 cubed or 3.72 times damage. You end up force proccing a ton of Toxin that all does 3.72 times more damage than normal, purely because of primed Banes. But do you know what else it works well with? The bullet attractor effect that made Zada's Whisper plus cold elemental ward work so well on Chroma and Zaku. But how do we create a bullet attractor effect on Saryn if we're using elemental ward? Scourge. Throwing the Scourge creates a bullet attractor field with 14 meter radius. This is best used near tile entrances and doors. It lasts 20 seconds and every 5 seconds it pulses massive bullet attractors onto the heads of enemies, which lasts 3 seconds each. You can only throw one Scourge area at a time and will remove the previous if you try to do more. The pulse rate, AoE radius, and duration of the bullet attractor field cannot be modified by any mod, so a completely unmodded Scourge is good enough for this. However, Amalgam Serration would help with sprint speed. The Arcane can also be whatever you want, as we're only using the Scourge as utility today. Cool. We're forced to use Scourge to get the best out of this build for the bullet attractor effects, and well, that can be annoying. So what's next? Nukor. What's special about Nukor and the rest of the chaining weapon family is that they always chain to center a body mass. Scourge changes this so that they only chain headshots instead. With the advent of the AoE nerf and other Veilbreaker changes, the base headshot multiplier has increased to 3 times for all non-AoE weapons. This means using Scourge literally triples the damage of Nukor. But wait, it doesn't end there. Scourge is a bullet attractor effect, and since the game does not distinguish between friendly or enemy fire for bullet attractor buffs in the game, the cold elemental ward multiplier works on damage dealt into Scourge bubbles. That's right. That's a juicy, separate, external 8.34 times final damage multiplier. This only works for hit scan weapons, but all our shots our Nukor does in the Scourge's bubble is 8.34 times higher because of a cold ward. This does not work for Electric Ward because Electric Ward is not considered reflected damage, while Toxin Lash does not double dip Elemental Ward like Zada's Whisper did for the crazy scaling, which would be 8.34 times 8.34 for a 69.56 times scaling on the build purely because of Ward. We are still forcing headshots with Scourge onto everything, so it's 8.34 times 3 equals 25.02 times scaling. This means the potential of the Saryn build is almost half a Bing Chilling build. And if you've ever used a Bing Chilling Chroma build, you know how strong they are. Remember, this 25.02 times scaling is still multiplied by the triple dip primed Bane, so 25.02 times 3.72 for 93.17 times damage scaling. And then we have Venom Dose and Toxic Lash, which adds an insane amount of toxic damage to your weapon. Basically, you'll end up doing several hundred times more damage than normal, absolutely nuking everything on Steel Path into Endurance, and producing a crazy amount of dots to kill off anything that survives as well. This is why I said the damage was overwhelmingly powerful. You just lock down a door entrance and spray your Nukor and everything dies for 20 seconds. This also restricts you to operate to such an area, but this is also what makes it appealing for endurance runs where you would have to change a few mods to focus purely on shield gating, instead of the hybrid shield gate and health tanking build I'll give you today. So let's look at that Saryn. This is a rather conservative, yes, conservative, 5 Armor Saryn Prime without Umbral mods, but that's because the aura is unranked. Feel free to run Umbral Vitality and Intensify here for even more health and strength. You can also run a higher rank combat discipline if you're willing to pay attention to the health drain, as we have multiple ways to deal with it on this loadout. I just felt it wasn't really needed. Archon Continuity does not proc off Toxin Lash, so it is a waste on Saryn, and we're already bringing Venom Dose to massively increase our raw damage anyways. Our sources of health tanking today are Vitality, Cold Elemental Ward, and Adaptation. Not only is Elemental Ward giving us a massive 8.34 times damage buff, but also 417% armor, which scales off of Saryn's base 300. We're effectively gaining 1,251 armor for a total of 1,551, or 83.8% damage reduction. Then we slap Adaptation on top of that, which can give us up to 90% damage reduction on any specific element, and is multiplicative to armor scaling. So how do we heal today? Well, we have Regenerative Molt that gives 139 HP per second on this build. We also have Magus Elevate if you go to Operator, which is useful in this build whenever you want Xeneric for better energy economy, which is what I recommend. Plus 20% strength from double casting Wellspring as well, or Matter for more strength and the natural talent effect from Power Transfer. So Magus Elevate just procs naturally as part of your rotations. I also brought an unleveled Hirudo just to show how little you need. This Hirudo has no Forma and just a potato. This is enough to heal you up to full easily. Hirudo heals on crits and uses lifesteal mechanics. 5% of your crit is restored as health. Successful crits also increase your max health temporarily, but that's irrelevant for today. It is farmable from Thumpers on the plains of Eidolon. I'm just using a basic raw corrosive max range build with max crits. If you want more health, just melee some enemies and you'll get it all back on Steel Path. This melee modding setup is not appropriate for endurance, so please keep that in mind. So we have Regenerative Molt, Magus Elevate, and Hirudo all as options to heal. For shield gating, I am bringing a Sentinel with Burst Laser family of weapons. This is the only pistol Sentinel weapon family in the game, and it lets you stat stick your Warframe with the Augur mod set that restores shield on energy used to cast. This is also a basic Sentinel build you can use for Steel Path, with Prime Regen giving them many extra lives, Synth Stat for holster reloading and extra health orbs, Radar, Vacuum, Guardian to instantly refill your shields to max, etc. Negate on Worm blocks one status effect from happening and takes 5 seconds to recharge, but Molt on Saryn already has a status cleanse, so it isn't as important. So alternatively, you could run a Jin instead because its Reawaken gives it infinite lives just like a Panzer. If you don't feel the need to shield gate on this build, feel free to bring an actual Panzer with this kind of build. Just use the usual viral spreading with Quills, Panzer Devolution for infinite cat lives, Martyr to keep you alive, Synth, Radar, and Vacuum. Now I'm pairing this with a combat discipline Saryn today for Arcane Avenger because I'm intending to showcase the might of a crit Kuva Nukor. This setup works best with Chaining Pistol, so you can use the Gaze, Tenet Cychron, regular Cychron, or Tomos. All will work. If you aren't using Nukor, you can run whatever aura you want and whatever Arcane instead of Avenger you want. The Nukor I'm using today is an Impact Progenitor and is built for just basic viral heat. I took Impact originally for one-shot priming builds and I would recommend a Heat Progenitor here instead for DPS purposes, but the loadout today is strong enough it honestly doesn't really matter what Progenitor you use. This Nukor inflicts Radiation, Viral, Heat, and Impact. That's 4 status effects for Guncio, but remember Cold Elemental Ward turns all our damage into cold in the bubble. We also have the Toxin procs from Toxin Lash and the Corrosive procs from Venom Dose. This results in having 4 to 6 status effects, with Guncio offering 480 to 720% base damage. I've chosen to slot Merciless for the extra reload speed and cutting Nukor down to just 1.5 seconds. Otherwise, take Deadhead. As heat is the highest elemental weight on this Nukor, it will easily build stacks. Viral because we aren't using any other weapons of Prime, and some fire rate to accompany Galvanized Multi-Shot. The Primed Bane here triple dips for 3.72 times more final damage and is extremely important. Finally, since we're using Arcane Avenger to add 45% flat crit, which means the Nukor is at about 50, which can be triggered by the self-damage from Combat Discipline, I've slotted Prime Target Attractor to boost our crit damage to 10.5 times. Pistol ammo mutation is also important despite how easily this Nukor kills because, well, ammo nerf always hurts spray and pray builds from post Veilbreaker. If you're using a different chain gun such as this Gaze here, made with the Ramble and Splat, I would not recommend slotting Seeker since the bullet attractor stops the main beam short on the first enemy. However, feel free to run Galvanized Crosshairs instead for some big PP orange and red crits. With Avenger, you'll be seeing a 281.7 crit chance. Arcane is free to be Deadhead as well since the reload is decent, and that 1.3 second headshot multiplier scales off of the base 3 times headshot multiplier for 3.9 times head damage. As I mentioned, the Focus School is completely free, whether you feel you need more energy from Wellspring on Xeneric, or faster casting and ability strength from Matarine, or the easy mode of Void Strike Last Gasps to revive yourself. It's up to you. Hopefully you can have fun with this shield gating, health tanking, healing, partial run and gun, camp nuking, endurance scaling Saryn. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like, or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I try my best to get you new information out always, as soon as possible, like I've done with covering the Veilbreaker update. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. You don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? And that'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.